What's up, Quackheads? Will the Pill here. I just want to take a hot minute to tell you guys about this week's sponsor. It's Podcorn, like popcorn, but with pod. Podcorn is the best. I'd say it's like the future of like podcasting, advertising. So it connects podcasters like me and John to advertisers. They basically, people who want to get their word out on podcasts. So there's no middlemen. Podcorn just connects us. It's easy. There's no contracts, and we love it. So talk murder to me. Also on the TacoCast network, Nicole from there was like, hey, Will, sign up for Podcorn. It's easy. Like, we're getting paid already. So I was like, well, we don't have, we're new. I don't think we're going to get anyone. But I went on there, signed up. Boom. Podcorn itself sponsored us. So that's how easy it is. It's so easy, so cool. The dashboard connects you. You can see what jobs you have going on for this month, all your slots. Connecting the podcaster to advertising. They give us workrooms. It's so easy. We love it. So this week's episode is sponsored by Podcorn.
Hey, Quackheads. John Boy coming at you. Just right quick before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out to our newest official Quackhead, Nicholas. Thank you so much, Nicholas, for supporting the podcast. Be sure to check your mailbox because you got some swag coming your way. Also, huge shout out to Oliver, who requested this episode today. You'll be hearing from him in a little bit. Anyway, enough from me. Let's turn it over to Will the Pill.
I've got the answer right here, ladies and gentlemen, to everything that ails you. Now step right up.
One who quacks like a duck about his salves and remedies. The cruel practice of making money on people's worries feared throughout the years as quackery.
I said cured of backache, nervousness,
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another titillating episode of the Quackery Podcast with your host, Sexy Will the Pill, and Long John Boy. What you got there? What you got? You a brewski? V8. I love it. This man, he's healthy. You're like Jackie Chan. Should have had a V8. Remember those commercials?
No, I don't.
It was for a short period of time. Like Jackie Chan was advertising for V8, and he would like be like, "What's up?" Kicking somebody's ass, and then he was like, "Should have had a V8." It's like, okay, sounds good. Dr. Will the Pill here, always with my man. It's John Boy and Pilly, as we've come to be known in certain circles.
John Boy.
Now, hopefully we have some listeners left after doing the vaccines episode, because I know we probably pissed a lot of people off. I just posted
the sound?
A meme. No, the sound was okay.
Oh,
it wasn't good,
yeah.
But with the some people don't like that kind of shit.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyways, so today we are talking about Curtis Howell Springer.
Hey, what's up, Quackheads? This is Oliver here. Love the show, avid listener. I ran across a story recently about a gentleman named Curtis Howell Springer. All you need to know is that he earned the moniker King of Quacks. Was hoping you guys would do a deep dive and tell us more about him. Love the show. Keep up the good work. Bye.
John is drinking a V8.
You're not supposed to tell him that.
Dude, no, it's perfect. It's perfect because this guy made, you'll see why. That fits really good. I decided to drink a spring water and bourbon. This is, I'm drinking New Southern Revival bourbon whiskey. It's the one with the red Jimmy Red Corn. It's from Highwire down in Charleston.
Oh, yeah.
Or down here in Charleston, I should say. Yeah, no, it's cool stuff. Yeah, the corn is actually red. It's like this heirloom corn they like basically revived from the brink of extinction, and now they're making some booze with it. So what better way to bring something back? Like if we could bring the dinosaurs back, we'd just be making fossil fuel right out of their blood.
Yeah, that's true. Isn't that crazy that fossil fuels is literally fossils?
That's weird, right? I can't believe that. Like,
yeah.
And the fact that not just we've known that since we were little kids, but like ever since everyone's been doing fossil fuels, like they teach them that in school and people are like, meh, it's a problem for another generation. The hell with it. We'll just figure it out another day. All right. So Ladies and gentlemen, quackheads of all ages, we're talking about Curtis Howell Springer this eve.
This guy looks really creepy.
Isn't this picture weird? So I'll put this up on quackerypodcast.com, but this is like his, like, he's definitely not like super young in this one, but he's got like, it's white tie affair, and he's got this afro-y hair, but he has it shaped in the way where it's like a bell.
Yeah.
So it comes out by his ears, like straight out, and then up and around. But he's the man, dude. But he's the quackiest of the quacks. He's titled the King of Quacks, and I'll tell you why. So, John, do you know anything about Curtis Howell Springer in general?
No, I have never heard of him.
So I feel like this is a travesty, and I'm glad we're getting to right this wrong, because he's definitely someone everyone should have heard of. I think just the time period that he was around kind of made it where he's not as big, but this guy is definitely impressive on the quack scale. He's up there.
Yeah, see, you wrote King of Quacks.
King of Quacks, baby. So we definitely got to cover him.
What about the snake oil guy? The snake oil guy. I thought
one would think that Clark Stanley would be the king of quacks, but nay, this guy here, you'll see why. Dude, Clark Stanley just came at it from one angle. This guy came at it from every angle. He's a businessman. No, you don't remember that, Little Nicky?
No.
You ever seen Little Nicky?
No, I haven't.
It's on there. Little Nicky, he goes in and he's trying to get, that's my flask. He's like, oh, this is a silver doodad from Africa. And it's like, I'm a businessman. No.
That's Adam Sandler. That's Adam
moving
Sandler,
on.
right?
Yeah, Little Nicky is a very underrated flick. So Curtis Howell Springer, he was born on December 2nd, 1896, and he died August 19th, 1985. So this man, he did live to be 89 years old. That's pretty damn impressive, I will say.
Yeah.
Born in Wheeling, West Virginia. He probably knew the White family. He was married twice. He claimed to be a private in the U.S. Army, which there's no record that he was in the U.S. Army, where he taught boxing.
What?
There's no record that he taught boxing in the Army, but it's a sweet story. Can you imagine going to the bar and be like, sit down, let me tell you about the time when I used to teach people how to box in the Army.
I know some guys that, it wasn't boxing, it was close combat or close quarters combat, like fighting. Oof. They would get paid for the Army to teach that, but you wouldn't see a private teaching that. You'd see like a sergeant, like an E6 or E7.
Of course. Dude, you know what it reminds me of? What was the movie with, that's got, oh gosh, what's his name? It was the one, but it was the Navy, and they were boxing on the ship, and it had, Men of Honor. You remember in Men of Honor? He was on the boat, and they would box all the time. You remember that shit? You saw that movie?
I did.
Yeah, anyway.
That's a good movie.
Yeah, it is a good movie. But that was what I was thinking of. Yeah, Cuba Gooding Jr. Dude, a good actor. Anyway, yeah, I mean, that's weird, right? But nowadays you'd be like, well, you can't falsify that kind of shit. But think about this. Like, if he was born in 1896, so he would have been old enough for the Army, like, what, World War I or some shit like that, you know? So, anyway, so after his supposed tour of duty in the boxing ring, he would hype up crowds. He'd be like the hype man for this politician named William Jennings Bryan. So I don't know, most of you guys probably don't know who this is because it's so long ago, but he actually ran for president a bunch of times, never won. But he was Secretary of State for a couple of terms, and he was huge.
That name sounds so familiar for some reason.
You may remember it. He was Secretary of State, and he was big into getting prohibition going.
That's why.
So, and he was famous for calling alcohol demon rum. So, which we all know, it's definitely demon rum, because the things it's made me done, only the devil knows. He also said that during that time he sold sheet music, which okay. Okay.
So he's a musician?
No, he wasn't a musician. He just like sold other people's sheet music. Like, I don't know, maybe like rip pages out of like the the hymnal at church and was selling that shit. I don't really know what that means.
Well, sheet music is like for
piano like to play if you have a piano or whatever, which is, you know, he pushed that hard. Like that was one thing he did. So education wise, okay, so he only went to 2 years of high school. Some reports say that he went 3 years of high school. Let's just be generous. We'll say he went to 3 years of high school and he went to 1 year of Bible school, not seminary, but just Bible school. I'm not sure what that entails, but it's not like a seminary, like a those are kind of like definitely a higher education college, learning sort of thing. So we'll move on to a quaint little place called Greer College. Sounds like a nice spot, right? You know?
Yeah.
Well, it's where they taught you how to fix cars, which is fine. I actually am a big proponent of people going back to more technical type schools because I think that's where the money in the future is going to be. But anyway, this was an automotive technical school where he got a job, and they fired him. 1930, they fired him, and shortly thereafter, Greer College actually went bankrupt and had to close. But the interesting thing is, Springer started just traveling around America, telling people he was the dean of Greer College, which he was not the dean, and the school was closed. So he would just go around and he'd give these lectures like he was some prestigious man of academia, and he would give these talks, and his talks for free. They would give these talks for free, but at some point in the talk, he would pass around a hat, you know, the offering plate, if you will.
Yeah.
If you feel so inclined to give a little bit of money into the donation box, you know, $25 should help. So basically, yeah, he would pressure you, and he learned, like, damn, people are giving money for this. I know nothing. I'm giving a fake information. No one's checking up on it. This isn't now where you can Google somebody and be like, oh, Greer College isn't even open. But no, you can fool anyone. Yeah, so not only would, quote unquote, Dean Springer pass around the hat for the donation, he would also then follow it up by saying, if you'd like to know more, you can take my private courses on whatever. And a lot of times it was like psychoanalysis or whatever the hell he made up that day. Like he would come up like where he was an expert on things. And I mean, really, he knew the psychology of how people worked because he was able to get him to give him money. So he knew what he was talking about a little bit, but he had no formal education or training whatsoever. But that didn't stop him from advertising himself and his name for these things with MD, which is a medical doctor. He was obviously not PhD. He was not a PhD. I mean, he would put everything. ND, which is even a naturopathic doctor, which he wasn't. A DO, which is doctor of osteopathy. Like everything. He put all this stuff after his name. Completely false, which is not legal. Yeah, as we'll get into later.
What kind of trouble can you get in if you did that?
So actually, we'll get into that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's a great question.
I don't know if I should, remove some stuff from my my profiles.
Lil P, PhD. Hey, I mean, you have a doctorate in true crime, I think.
Dude, if I ever had a son, I would name his last name PhD. So
yes.
people would just think he's a doctor.
Or his initials, if you had you can make his initials PhD. Yeah. Oh, dude, that's smart. Back where I was from, so not our high school that we went to, but our rivals, their high school started with a P. Yeah. And so all the people from there be like, man, I'm way smarter than you. Be like, why? Be like, I got my PhD. And be like, what do you mean? Be like, I got my Pickens High diploma.
Pickens. You went to Pickens.
I didn't. Pickens your nose.
Holy shit.
Yeah. That was hilarious. Yeah. So he actually didn't stop with just Greer College, though. That wasn't enough to satiate his desire to sound smart. He made up a bunch of schools, such as the National Academy.
Oh, I like that.
That's all. Just the Springer School of Humanism.
Yeah, I like that too.
The American College of Doctors and Surgeons. the Westlake, West Virginia College.
And also University of Phoenix.
No, he started that one, but it became real. No, don't shit on U of P. It's man, look at you, man.
Yeah.
Together we rise, motherfucker.
Holy shit.
And then he also made up 2 osteopathy schools in Pennsylvania and New Jersey that don't exist. He just magicked them out of here.
Man,
it's a woozy, it's a wazy, it's a...
Yeah, I love that movie. It's kind of like the same today. People, if you say something to people that you're a doctor or whatever and you're really not, and you can back it up with some knowledge of whatever, people will just take you at face value.
Oh, yeah. Well, the one nice thing with that, at least, is there's some fact checking, but then you can just say it's fake news and then you're good to go, right?
Yeah.
What was it? We talked about D. Gary Young, man, with the Young Living. He just said, he went by D. Gary Young, and so then he started saying it was Dr. Gary Young, and people were like, cool, man, cool, sounds good, So you were asking what kind of trouble you can get. Well, initially, it was just a little smoke, kind of like when, the IRS or whoever, starts investigating someone, right away, they don't just come slap the cuffs on them. They start to do some investigation. So the AMA is the American Medical Association, and then the BBB, obviously, is the Better Business Bureau. They're both on his ass pretty much right away. So by 1936, they actually published an article in the Journal of the AMA, the Journal of American Medical Association. It was called Curtis Howe Springer, a Quack and His Nostrums. So it detailed his exploits and his lack of education, and it concluded that a most thorough search fails to show that Springer was ever graduated by any reputable college or university, medical or otherwise. But that's just the start of this quack in his nostrums, let me tell you.
Yeah, what is nostrums? I always see that with the word quackery, nostrums.
Yeah, so this show's called Quackery, and nostrums is just sort of a synonym for it. It means the same thing. It's basically like the products that the quack
gotcha.
pushes. But quackery is like any form of a fake doctor or a bad,
Yeah.
So quackery and nostrums would be the same thing. A quack would be the doctor who pushes nostrums or quackery. Anything like that. All right, so I'm talking about his radio career here. I want you to look at this gorgeous picture. Oh yeah, dude. That's not him.
Oh, I was about
That's
to
another DJ at the WCFL. The Booze. No, I don't know what their nickname is, but anyway. So when he was living in Chicago, Radio 10 Chicago. If it's going on Radio 10 Chicago. Stay tuned. We got a tune from the Bee Gees coming up. WC. But anyway, this is a great picture. I'm going to put it up on quackerypodcast.com. It's just a sweet ass picture from the 70s. This was just a picture I found of the WCFL, the radio station where he first started on. Anyway, he got twice a day radio evangelist shows. Actually, if you listen to, and I'll talk about this a little more in a little bit, but if you listen to some of his radio programs, and actually we're going to play one for you a little bit later. Yeah. If you listen to some of these bad boys, this he's got a silky smooth voice, very fatherly, he sounds very trustworthy. Yeah. Anyway, so he would get on there and he'd tell you about life and how to live it. That's what he would always say.
I love that, dude.
Dude, yeah, no, so obviously he would talk about all these things, and it was good, like the program sounds good, like he gives you some solid advice on like almost like a self-help hour plus Jesus plus his fake medicines. So he mixed it all in. So it's like some good, some God, some fake. So he started pushing some of his medicines. He had 2 big ones to start with. One was called Rehib and Acids, which was just baking soda, which will work. It'll work for for stomach acid, but it's not the most ideal thing. Plus, we already know that it will work. So like rebranding it and selling it for 20 times the price is something new. That's a quack.
Yeah.
And then you got something called antediluvian tea, which is basically a big bag of poo-poo herbs. He just it was like a laxative tea. That's all it was. But he basically said it would like clean you out, your toxins. It was almost like a detox sort of thing, obviously. So eventually he moved his radio show to one of his own health spas, and I want to save that for just a moment. So when I say a health spa these days, John Boy, what do you think of?
Like you go in, pedicure, manicure, pedicure, manicures.
Petty, facial, mud bath, what? Yeah, no. That's what I think too. I mean, but more like a health plan would be like, I guess, like, what do you get, a sauna? And he gets, that's what I think too. But he made these health spas that were a little bit more all inclusive. So he would have them where they kind of did that stuff plus everything else. You would stay there. You would eat his food. You would take his medicines. You would have to go into the bathhouse and see all the old men's ball sacks, which is part of the healing process.
Dude, you're going to be old one day.
I'm already old. Come on, man. I can't wait till I can go into the, I want to join like a gym that has a big old locker room when I get old. And I just want to walk around in there naked all the time. Not even ever work out. Just wander around. Be like, maybe I'll go into the sauna for 15 minutes and then I'll wander around into the locker room for the next 4 hours. How does that sound? Maybe I'll shave my balls while I'm there. Because I think that's how old people think. They're like, they're probably stuck at home now with the coronavirus. Like, good God Almighty, my bush is so big, it's pushing my. I'm gonna have to buy new briefs. Anyway, Mr. Springer, the dean, Dr. Springer, whatever you want to call him.
Oh, he was telling people on his radio show during this that he was a doctor and all this stuff, correct?
Oh yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
He would say he was a doctor and a reverend. He was a joker, a smoker, a midnight toker, a lover and a fighter, and a late night rider. He would say everything on there, which was amazing. Twice a day show where he's just spouting off bullshit, and nobody's really checking up on it. So this kind of blends in. So I told you that in 1936 they published that thing in the JAMA, which is big. I mean, it still is now. Mm-hmm. So he opens his first health spa in 1931. So that's a couple years before he gets in that. But they were already looking into him. So obviously they noticed that he started pushing this stuff, and they were basically saying like, don't buy it. But they never did anything to him. Like, he was cool, They just didn't mess with him. They just like put that out like, warning, this guy's a quack. But then he just let him do his thing. So his first wife, a lovely lady named Mary, convinced him to open his first health spa in Fort Hill, PA, Pennsylvania, 1931. He lost it, though, 6 years later for non-payment of taxes. I guess that'd be called tax evasion or whatever. Yeah, he just didn't pay any taxes the whole time. No taxes. He didn't believe in him. So
didn't believe him.
He didn't believe in him. It's one of those things. It's all about belief,
Yeah.
What's that thing that they always put up at, like, you see it in the South, they have it, trust in Jesus, all others must pay cash, or whatever it is. You know what I'm talking about? Like, they... Anyway, he also tried to set up 5 other health spas, which were either shut down before he could even open the doors due to him either messing up his taxes or something with not filing the paperwork right, or shortly thereafter closed down immediately for non-payment. So he went into Wilkes-Barre, PA, Johnstown, PA, Mount Davis, PA. Then he moved over to Cumberland, Maryland, and then Davenport, Iowa. He just kind of jumped all over the damn place because when you're a quack in his nostrums, you just got to bounce around. So then, several years later, in 1944, he dumped Mary and he got himself a new lady named Helen.
Helen.
Helen. So,
I don't think I've ever met a Helen, dude.
It definitely sounds like a grandma's name. I don't think I've ever met a Helen.
I've never met a Helen, no.
Yeah, for what I've heard about them, they'll in bed they'll take it to hell and back. I just made that up. It's a bad joke, but I'm sticking with it. All right. So together, I guess Helen knew a little bit about mining. So she said, "Hey, you need land for a health spa? I'll tell you what you do. You go out to the Mojave Desert. They'll give you all the land you want. All you got to do is tell them that you're mining it." So he said, "Hey, let's file a mining claim." They gave him 12,800 acres.
Holy shit.
In California. Yep.
But it's all
Just,
in the desert, right?
In BD, no big deal. Just 12,800 acres. Yeah, it was like...
Probably cheap as hell,
I think I did the math. It was like, for free.
They gave him for free?
He filed a mining claim. So how a mining claim worked back in the 40s was this. It was almost kind of like, the gold rush and all the stake in your claim shit out west. So it was basically like, I'm filing a mining claim, and you just tell them the government. It's land that no one really wants. So if you say you're doing a mining claim, they'll give you this land to mine and to live on, and that's basically it.
Yeah, but 12,000 acres? Holy hell.
12,800 acres. And so basically he had to say that either he was mining something that was either rare there, or or you couldn't find any, or like novel, something new, like you couldn't find somewhere else he thought he was going to find. So anyway, it was in the Mojave Desert, which is in, this part was in California, and it was formerly called Soda Springs, and it's actually almost exactly between L.A. and Las Vegas, which is pretty cool. And so he had no intention though of mining anything except for the cash of sweet, sweet sucker.
Ah, he was doing Bitcoin mining out there. Okay.
Yeah. Nah, man. Bitcoin mining provides a service because you're validating the blockchain transfers. John, we talked about this. So the cool thing about this place out there was Soda Springs. It had an army post. Full circle there. An old 1860 army post and an old railroad station. So instead of going with Soda Springs, though, he said he was going to rename it. So he called it Zzyzx. Zzyzx. Spelled Zzyzx. You got any idea why you might call it Zzyzx? Other than it's
idea,
a
it's like
badass name. Really is. No, so he wanted to be the last word in health.
Ah. Hey, that makes sense. That's that's why Amazon is named Amazon, because Jeff Bezos wanted to be the first thing in the dictionary. Yeah.
Well, and that's the reason why if you see these businesses that are like AAA auto advantage, that's why they want to be at the top of the phone book. So he was like, well, if we can't be the top of the phone book, we're going to be the very last thing, easy to find, which is pretty badass. I will say that. Nice job naming it. Some people I saw call it Zzyzx, but if you listen to Doc, quote unquote, I will do air quotes, Doc Springer, he calls it Zzyzx. So that's the proper way to say it.
Dude.
Hell yeah.
Well, what's that one cult that's like it's got the Roman numerals in it? I don't know what it's called, but it's big. Or it was big.
Yeah, no. Oh gosh, I know what you're talking about. I can't remember now though. Yeah, but I guess that's a good point for me to say. The reason why I love Dr. Springer is because he's like everything rolled into one, okay? He even called himself the last of the old-time medicine men. Like, who can say that and get away with it? Like, literally, the old-time medicine men were scam artists. They're grifters, bro. So he's a quack. He faked his education. He's a fake... Basically, he's a televangelist or radio evangelist, fake. He's basically a cult leader. He acts like he was in the military. He's scamming people out of money on property, obviously the government on property, and more stuff too. So let me get into this right here. So have you ever heard of Skid Row? In California? Dude.
Yeah, I've watched it. There's
tell me what you know about it.
All those Drug Inc. documentaries are out there
they
too.
Go, right?
A lot of them are. There's like Heroin Central. And plus there's a band. I think is a band.
Yeah, it is. So did you know why, where the term Skid Row comes from? This was interesting. I didn't know this.
I was going to say your boxer shorts, but that's probably not.
100-mile-an-hour skid marks. Oh. So stick with me. This is kind of weird. So it's actually a logging term. So when people were on the skids, which, I mean, I've heard that on the skids, like you're on hard times, right? So that came from, it's a logging term. So basically they would set up these logging skids where they would skid the wood down the hill, right?
Yeah.
So there were people who would ride the logs down the hill and make sure that they didn't, I guess, flip over or some shit like that.
Fun.
And then they'd be at the bottom and they'd have to wait for a ride back up because they didn't want to walk. So a bunch of people would gather and talk, and they were just like, we don't care. We're lazy. We're going to wait for someone to give us a ride back up to the top of the hill. So it became a thing like these people are on the skids, like they're waiting around. They don't have anything to do. And then so that sort of went along to become like a neighborhood where like people were waiting around for work. And then it became like a rough neighborhood, a depressed neighborhood, a poor neighborhood, a homeless neighborhood, a drug neighborhood, and on and on. And that's where it came from, which is
crazy.
It's interesting. I like learning that kind of stuff. Yeah. But anyway, so why the hell do I bring up Skid Row? Well, old Curtis, he said he knew about LA because it was, he was halfway in between LA and Las Vegas. So he drove down to LA and he just picked up a shitload of homeless people. And he said, hey, I'll give you somewhere to live if you come work. And at that point in time in the 40s, like, it wasn't like people weren't going to work. It wasn't like they were just like, I'm on drugs, leave me alone. Like, they were probably alcoholics and stuff like that. I mean, I don't doubt that. But, like, they probably wanted a job. They just couldn't get one. So they hopped in the truck. He drove them back to Zzyzx, and he made them build all these structures for him. And in that way, they built all the structures for the health spa that he built in Zzyzx. And so Curtis Springer never paid him a dime. He just gave him room and board, which is like, food. Yeah. And in that way, he was able to apply for tax exemption status from the government.
Oh, nice.
Dude, I'm telling you, he's a hustler, man.
Yeah.
Dude, he's so impressive that way. Like, he picks up homeless people, makes them do stuff for him for free.
In the desert,
and then he gets tax exemption in the desert. Because initially, he was just starting... He would get people to come to his spring and just set up tents, and then he would also utilize the old railroad station and army station, and then but once he brought in these Skid Row workers, he built it up. If you go over here, we'll look at the features of Zzyzx. So he had what he called his hot springs.
Oh, wow.
He said it was a natural hot spring.
Really? In the desert?
It was not.
He
had a
boiler.
No, so there was actually, so what he found was the place where the army station and the railroad was, there was like a little oasis there with a little bit of water. Plus, he brought in, a certain amount of water. Then he just pulled it all together right there. So he would use some water from that. He would pump it into his spring or his hot springs, he said. And it was just like a pool, like a hot tub, but he would heat it. But he told people it was natural. And he built it in the shape of a giant cross.
Nice.
Which is badass too, because it's like, and the other cool thing, you can look at these videos of it, but he made it like this huge deck where he built his hot spring cross, and it was no top on it because it never rains out there in the desert, so he just had no top on it, but he built the walls up like only to a certain height, and then the windows. So like if you're in the hot springs, you could look out into the desert, and it was like really pretty view.
Oh, nice.
And then the winds would come through, and it would cool you, but it wouldn't like buffet you with all the sand. Like he did a good job building it up. It was pretty cool.
Is it still there?
Yeah, it's there. You can go. I'll get into what's there now. There's something there now. Man. It's kind of like the ruins of some of this stuff, but there is something there. So he also built he called it the Castle, but it was just a hotel, like a really nice 60-room hotel. He built a church, obviously. His health spa, baths, where the cross shape. He called them mineral baths too. He had. He built a radio broadcast studio. Obviously, he had to keep his radio program going. Yeah. Because I mean, that's what he did. In my opinion, best. He even built his own airstrip. He called it the Zyport.
I like this guy, dude. Was he getting
told
clients? Like people were coming in?
Tons of people. Yeah, he was crushing it. So he also built this road called the Boulevard of Dreams, and it was basically the road from like the main area to the Oasis Pond, which was Lake, or he called it Lake Tunde. Was an oasis, but it was a man-made lagoon that he basically brought all the water together, and he surrounded it by like palm trees, and he put this big fountain in the middle, and he made it look like really nice. Like it looks like, if you go down to like a resort in Florida, that's kind of like what it looked like. But the interesting part was he combined all these little small oases, I guess you would call them, and there's this fish called the Mojave chub that is endangered that lives there, and that's like its primary habitat.
Oh, whoa.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Hey, the Lord works in mysterious ways, brother.
That's crazy, dude. So people didn't ask questions like, how is this heated out in the middle of the desert? Like, there's no like volcanic.
I'm sure, dude. He had answers for everything. Like he said that the minerals he would use in his mineral bath were like these extremely rare minerals that he would mine from the earth, like, and that's how he was also telling the government. Yeah, and that was also how he was telling the government that it was still a mining operation. He would say like, "Oh, we're mining these special salts from the ground and using them in a mineral bath." There was nothing special about it. It was just salt, and he put it in the bath. That was it. You could get it anywhere. But, dude, he was smart like that. So we'll go into... So he continued to pretend to be a doctor, obviously. Pretend to be a preacher. He would pretend to be a PhD sometimes. He would pretend to know about psychology. Obviously, he would continue to do his radio broadcasts. And he would push even more health products from Zzyzx. So I'll just run through the list of them here. And you stop me if you find any of these amazing. I found this that one, the antediluvian tea. The box is fantastic. It looks like an Egyptian goddess like getting out of his health spot. It says Dr. Springer's antediluvian tea. The body beautiful.
Dude, I bet
it's awesome. You can buy them. Yeah,
I bet if he was around today, his stuff would be like a multi-level marketing products.
Oh,
yeah. Dude, I kind of want to sell his stuff. Just the branding, Zzyzx, dude, that would kill it, bro. We should bring this back, man.
He's smart, man. He's smart. He's really smart. So anyway, they got the list of the full listing of his catalog during a 1972 lawsuit. That's kind of a spoiler alert there. So I'll go through the antediluvian tea. They said it was a mixture of barks and herbs described in the court case as a laxative in a tea bag. But the cover art was nice.
Yeah.
Rehab was just baking soda, which would have worked, but could have been made at home for way cheaper. Hollywood Pep Cocktail was a blend of concentrated vital food energy. That's what they said.
It sounds just like today, man, what people do today.
No doubt, right? I think there is a Hollywood cocktail thing, right? They said this one had root vegetables and brown sugar, which, sounds delicious. Mohair.
Mohair.
Mohair. M-O-hair. It was salt, mud, and the rare minerals from the area. They would make them rub it on their head, and then they would say, you got to hold your breath and lean over to touch your toes as long as you can. And how red your face got would mean how well the product was working.
What?
God, I love this guy, man. I got to find his kids and his ancestors and be friends with them.
Yeah.
So good. He also had Zzy crystals, ZY/crystals.
Yeah.
Which reminds you of people who do crystals now.
Yeah.
That was just dried salt from the oasis. To hasten results, breathe deeply, get at least 8 hours of uninterrupted sleep in a 24-hour period, exercise in moderation, and think only clean and constructive thoughts. Also, drink 1 pint of water 1 hour before each meal, none at mealtime, or for 2 hours thereafter, and none before retiring. Jeez. So, the crazy thing about that is, you probably would feel good.
Yeah.
If you get 8 hours of sleep, you drink plenty of water, exercise, and don't eat too much, you're going to feel great. It has nothing to do with the Zzyzx crystal.
Yeah, Zzyzx crystal.
But that's what's great is he would, that's what was funny because I remember I saw some stuff and they were like, oh man, Dr. Springer, he really made a difference in my life. And probably be like, well, looking some of the shit he did, it probably would work, but you didn't need his stuff. You just needed to go there and realize that low stress, eating right, getting sleep, and exercise is better for you than the alternative.
Yeah.
But then, he had to cheat people out on top of that. Shangri-La, he would, I don't know, they said it was $20 for a 4-pack, suggested by an Asian missionary, which in today's dollars, they said was like $114 a treatment. Cosmo was suggested by an Indian to him for lovely skin. I like this one. FWO. Food delightly pleasing to women.
What?
I don't know. I guess it's just like sugar or something. Anthron, my mother's favorite food. And then Zzyzx foot crystals. So not the other crystals, not Zzyzx crystals, but Zzyzx foot crystals were for poor, tired feet. Which I guarantee you they were the same thing as the other ones. Which is awesome. So he continued, obviously, to promote this, to grow this place. At one point, I saw an actual interview with Doc Springer, quote unquote, where he's like, well, I put $2 million into this property and I tried to give it back to the U.S. government in the form of education and they wouldn't take it. And I said, well, Mr. Springer, where'd you get the $2 million? Well, I don't think that's any of your business. Now, let me tell you this. I'm a university man myself. I have a PhD in psychology. And I'll tell you, this land is going to the government through the...
Jesus.
So he made a lot of money, obviously, through this. But so there was a lot, obviously the name is really cool. So there are actually several pop culture references. They actually made a movie. They misspelled the Zzyzx though.
Oh,
it's
what
with
the hell?
Katherine Heigl. You've heard of her, right?
Yeah.
She was in like Grey's Anatomy. She was in the with Johnny Knoxville in The Ringer. Love that.
I can't believe they misspelled it. Did they do that on purpose? Like
I couldn't figure out. Here's the reason why. The movie was such a tremendous flop. They said that the box office gross was $30. It made $30.
$30?
$30. You can't even find it to buy. Like, you would think just because she was in it. This wasn't her first movie.
$30.
This was after Grey's Anatomy. I mean, unbelievable. 2006. Like, I really wanted to watch it because it had to be bad. It had to be really bad.
Hey, they're still in the green, dude. They're still in the green, Profit's profit, dude. $30.
Oh, God.
Oh, shit.
So then there's also Zzyzx Road by a band called Stone Sour.
Yeah.
You remember Stone Sour?
Yeah, I play them on my guitar game. I always
looking
play
at you through the glass, wondering where my reflection glass. See if
it feels like forever.
Yes. So I was like, wait, who are these? But anyway, Zzyzx Road sucks. The song sucks. But anyway, I thought it was interesting that they that's like a blast from the past there.
Yeah.
A nice Stone Sour song. Pretty sweet. So eventually, he ran this thing for about 30 years before anyone really noticed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So eventually the IRS and the federal government realized that he was not only squatting, not only making a shitload of money tax-free, but then he also started subletting his property off to his followers. So he had people who would come out there and love it so much that they were like, how can I live out here? And he'd be like, no problem at all, friend. I'll just lease you out a piece of property right next to mine. So he started selling off this property that he got for free from the government for mining.
Oh, my God.
So just on and along, and he just kept making more money. So in 1974, he was evicted and convicted of false advertising for one, Actually, that was the only thing they got him for, because that was the biggest thing. And how long? What do you think the jail sentence for this man would be?
Like 7 years, maybe.
You would think, right?
Something like that.
I mean, if someone goes to jail for 10 years for a baggie of weed, you got to think this guy. He was convicted for a 60-day sentence, of which he served 49 days. He got out.
He got out for good behavior or what?
Good behavior. 49 days.
I love this guy, dude. You know, dude,
Curtis Howe, the finest picker ever sang the blues.
Before we even started this podcast, like, I remember thinking multiple times that if I was like out in the Wild West, like every time I watch a Wild West movie, I would be that guy that pulls up with the cart, you know, and step on up, ladies and gentlemen.
You'd be the snake oil salesman, baby.
Yeah.
I love that.
I'd be that guy, probably.
I mean, as much as this guy, you know, you got to be impressed by, you know, he is a hustler, dude. Even though he's lying to all these people, he's doing all this shady stuff, like, man, he built an empire out of nothing.
Yeah.
He paid nobody anything. He got the land for free. He got the buildings built for free. He was calling people in. Oh, my favorite was he would say, be like, friends, you just, if the Lord is calling you to come to Zzyzx, you write us a letter. And if we feel that we can help you and that you're not able to pay for it, and you just reach out to your local church and we'll work with them to get you funding to come out here and stay for a month free of charge. It'd be like, wait a minute, you said free of charge, so why are you reaching out to their local church? So you're making their church pay for the... Dude, he just like... And he had the voice that just made you trust him, friend. Just good news on life and how to live it.
Jesus.
And it was almost like the fireside chats.
Yeah.
He liked FDR a lot. He's a big fan of FDR. But anyway, so after his short stint in prison, he moved over down to Las Vegas, which seems like a strange place for a fake doctor / fake minister / you know.
Did he still have all his money, though?
I couldn't find out how much cash he was able to keep from this. That was the tricky part, because, you know, all that stuff is kind of, even though, you know, he was evicted in 1974, you know, I looked at the information from the court case, because that's where I found some of the stuff, like the list of his things that he did wrong, the list of his different fake medicines that he sold. But anyway, yeah, I assume he probably, you know, transferred his assets over to Helen. And he and Helen were high rollers up until he died in 1985 at 88 or 89 years old or whatever it was. But I am super impressed, because the journal for which we come up with our name for this podcast, the official Nostrums and Quackery edition of the AMA, which is, you remember so Clark Stanley basically started this.
Yeah.
Doc Springer was in the 1936 edition of Nostrums and Quackery, articles on the Nostrum, Evil, and Quackery, reprinted from the Journal of American Medical Association, Volume 3. He was on pages 162 to 164. He made the official Nostrums and Quackery, man. It's so cool.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah. So you were asking if you could still go there. So I watched a episode of Ghost Towns of California, where they go there and they ask the guy who's there. He's got this huge beard. You know, he's like, he works for Cal State. So that's who got the property.
Oh.
So Cal State owns it, and it's called like the Desert Research Center. So they basically house like a ton of students that come through there. Hundreds of students come through there because, like, I mean, it's in between. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. So it's like a stop where they can house students for free.
Yeah.
Or included. And basically the castle, quote unquote castle, like the hotel, is the only place like left that they can stay. A lot of it, the rest of it's fallen down. But like, you can watch the documentary. They walk you around. They show you like where the bathhouse used to be, where the, you know, Zyport used to be, all the stuff like that. And he tells you all the stuff about Doc Springer, and it's fantastic.
That's
man.
Crazy, man.
The dude just was crushing it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I guess maybe at this point you want to play like the little clip from Doc Springer, or
When you come out to Zzyzx Mineral Springs, you have these wonderful hot mineral water baths here, 3 swimming pools to swim in at different temperatures, a lake full of fish for fishing, the finest of foods, organically raised fruits and vegetables for you, also steaks and chops and poultry and fish, the finest of foods. All of our baking 100% stone ground, whole grain, homemade ice cream, not little dippers full, but great big soup bowls full or great big scoops full on your tray, either way you wish. Oh, we have wonderful times here. We want you to come when you can.
sounds like one of those old school like Walt Disney World like shows, or like sit down with me here. This is Walt Disney, and we're gonna tell you about Mickey Mouse, and you just hold on to your family and be a good boy. You have any questions for me on Doc Springer? I basically immersed myself in his whole thing. It's not a terribly long story, but it's super interesting. And I know everything, so ask me.
Dude, that...
Other than how much money he was able to take with him to put on black in Vegas. Clackety, clackety, clack.
If the spot was still, I mean, I know it's still there, but if it wasn't owned by the university, it would be a really good, like, rehab center, you know? Because, I mean, that's what those big rehab centers are nowadays. You go out to the desert or whatever, and it's like 5-star resorts.
Yeah.
You know?
That's interesting that you bring that up, too, because you remember at the beginning I told you that he was hyping up that Secretary of State who was against, or who was for prohibition.
Yeah.
Well, he took that with him the rest of his life. He was super, super against booze of any kind. So there was no alcohol allowed, which was actually interesting for someone who pushed patent medicines, because basically, if you remember old medicines, it was basically nothing but alcohol.
Yeah.
So he would have to come up with stuff that was mostly herbs and salt and things like that. But he was big time against alcohol, and then smoking was only allowed in certain places of the facility, which sounds like now, right?
Crazy.
Except for the booze part.
I wonder how he heated that pool.
They said he had two massive underground, or he had 2 massive boilers that he put in a concrete room nearby, and he would pipe the water in, and then it would drain out into the lagoon. All right, well, I guess if that's all, that's our show, brother.
All right.
If this episode really quacked y'all up and you want to support the crew, please head on over to quackerypodcast.com/join and become an official quackhead. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, tell your friends, and as always, keep calm and quack on.